7月24日，中共休斯顿领馆表示不会承诺闭馆，若美方强制行动，即等同于宣战。7月25日，中共官媒发文抹黑美国务卿及其7月23日演讲。7月24日，中共武汉病毒所实证例在专访中继续将病毒甩锅给美国。
现在已经拉了3车已经走了，就第4辆车在等了，这全轮全在检测，这一天呢，
大部分都封了，从郭文村的市场旁边的楼，出不来进不去。
7月24日，因水患增加，中共扩大三峡9孔泄洪，造成下游百姓人身财产多重危机。自7月22日，中共为保上海、南京等地牺牲安徽，人为导致合肥巢湖支流决口，多地水灾，民众无奈逃离家园，未见任何政府官员慰问救助。昔日中国电子第一街，深圳华强北电子市场人去楼空，破败不堪。
北气还钱，北气还钱，北气还钱。
护照、机票全都拿在手了。可是政策变了，东北口岸一个都过不去了。机票都订完了，看见没？出不去，海关停，任何人不让过。
7月25日，香港疫情持续爆发，新增133例，达单日纪录。
再看到中国辽宁省大连市疫情升温，连日出现病例，不止进入战时状态，爆出跨省区的传播现象。中共官方就宣布，离开大连需要有7天内的核酸检测阴性的证明，并要大连人非必要不要出城。今天大连民众排队等待检测的人潮看不见尽头。
现在是2020年7月22日下午，大连湾水产品市场封市了，看看人也不让进，车也不让进。
我也傻逼了，
看看。
老大这么快，老大啊，这么快，
人全都接外面，刚刚通知封市，多灾多难呀！
都在外面，就是绕着这个建筑物，然后就是一直排。
好的，这位网友对大连的疫情不乐观，担忧会封城。从影片中可以看到，大连排队等待检测的人潮看不见尽头。除了搭乘火车和飞机离开大连，需要核酸检测阴性的证明。大连部分线路的公车车站也暂停营运。另外，在大连体育中心开幕的中超联赛大连分会场，则采无观众全封闭进行。这波疫情在辽宁、吉林、黑龙江扩散，黑龙江与吉林都出现无症状感染者。
流氓法院不讲道理，
唐山法院，
王法开炮，唐山法院，王法开炮，王法裁判，而且还有一个鉴定是伪鉴定，制造假的冤案，
这也是咱
他们人？制造假的法医判决。对。制造假的法医判决。带着孙子来了。房山法院造假，公检法，他们冲着，他们是一。
主持人开场说：“今天很荣幸来到了美丽的济南，山东大学女生真漂亮。”我不由得感叹，山东大学留学生真幸福啊！现场学生立即群情激愤，纷纷指责万达。山东大学就业指导中心得知情况后，也怒了，要求万达领导10分钟内道歉，不然就报警处理。我觉得万达的言论不构成对山大的侮辱，因为他们只不过是说了一个客观事实。事件得回到山东大学招募学办政策开始。据山东大学网页显示，2018年11月，山东大学按照1:3的比例为留学生招募到141名学伴，其中以女学生为主。和男留学生处朋友是女生们的私生活范围，如果由校方进行这样针对性别需求的按需分配，就实在有拉皮条的嫌疑了，实在有损山东大学的尊严和形象。微博热搜上有人对山东大学的学办制度产生讽刺和质疑，然而山东大学不仅不反思自己的学办制度是否存在严重问题，反而说有人故意抹黑他们。这次面对万达的调侃，他们依然不反思自己的过错，却去责怪万达集团。更让人觉得不可思议的是山大男女学生的反应。男生们，你们的校方那么把你们热爱的女生推向了留学生的怀抱，你们就不在意吗？就不怕被留学生戴绿帽子吗？女学生们，你们就心甘情愿的被留学生玩弄吗？还是想借此机会出国呢？就不怕到头来人？
大家要关起门来搞发展，那是行不通的。开放啊，对人来说跟空气一样，虚与不可离，否则就窒息了。
对，你可听下名媛哈，老百姓也有血量的。对，发你们机构都是那德行，人家卖个啊，抢没有偷没有，偷抢那是你们敢不敢去弄？带枪的，带枪的，带枪了！抓人了，特警抓人了，带枪过来呀！你们看，都流血了，你看，你们看，特警带枪过来抓人了，抓杨媳妇啊！你们看。2020年7月24日，新中国联邦国旗屹立在 G6 高速旁。战友们，加油！共匪，你完蛋啦！
Former UC Davis researcher being sought by the FBI is now in the Sacramento County Jail. Tang Huan is facing a federal charge of visa fraud and is not eligible for bail. She's a researcher who was focusing on biology, and a senior department official says she was a fugitive from justice hiding in China's San Francisco consulate. Prosecutors say she concealed her connection to the Chinese military in her visa application. Although investigators found photographs of her in uniform, Tang is denying serving in the Chinese military and claims she did not know the meaning of the insignia on her uniform.
We are here outside the U.S. consulate in Chengdu, which China has said the U.S. has to shut as tensions escalate between the two countries.
Security is extremely strict here. There are dozens of policemen, plainclothes security guys, and PLA soldiers. People are being told that they can't take pictures, they can't film videos. They're being questioned. Passers-by who've been taking pictures have been told to immediately delete them, and the police are going around checking everyone's phones. Cars aren't allowed on the streets, although motorbikes and scooters and bicycles are still passing by.
The price of gold stood at around $1,897 announced on Friday, a 0.4% jump from the previous day. This easily surpassed the all-time high of around 1,892 reached in 2011 in the wake of the financial crisis. With Washington and Beijing engaging in tit-for-tat consulate closures in Houston and Chengdu, the price in the market soared to almost 1,906. Watchers say gold could reach $2,000 an ounce if the number of COVID-19 cases continues to rise and stalls economic recovery.
The Wuhan Institute of Virology. If you follow this show, you must be familiar with this name. It keeps coming up in our reports in different ways. China calls it the largest virus bank in Asia. America calls it the birthplace of the Wuhan virus. The same lab is back in the headlines for a secret deal between China and Pakistan, and that's our cover story tonight. An agreement to build bio-warfare capabilities, bioweapons. This is the deal between China and Pakistan, and the Wuhan Institute of Virology is right at the center of these claims. Australian journalist Anthony Clan reported this story first. A 3-year agreement signed between Pakistan's Defence Science and Technology Organization and China's Wuhan Institute of Virology. On the face of it, this is just a research collaboration. But this deal allows China to conduct tests on biological agents outside its borders in Pakistan. According to the report, this is a covert deal hidden from the world. There's a secret facility in Pakistan. It runs several research projects related to deadly pathogens. Pathogens like anthrax, which has been used as a bioweapon in the past.
We think that the entire world needs to work together to ensure that every country, including China, behaves in the international system in ways that are appropriate and consistent with the international order. Whether it's Americans living abroad or Danes getting in on the fun, our two countries love freedom. Yeah, while we rightly celebrate those bonds, we'll work closely together, and Lord willing, our two countries will always strive to uphold them.
My question for you, closing this consulate in Chengdu, who does that hurt? Is that the U.S. or China?
Well, it probably actually hurts China more than the United States. The Chinese government was looking to U.S. firms and Western countries to help develop that part of China. I think they'll be much more risk averse about doing that now. So in the end, China could be hurt for this. Also, the Three Gorges Dam may fail. If that fails, that's going to be an enormous economic and disaster in China. So, could be shaky days ahead. But, I think from the U.S. perspective, the U.S. really isn't looking for escalation here. What the U.S. has moved to is a strategy of what's called reciprocity, which is, why do we let the Chinese government do things in the United States that they would never let the U.S. do in China?
Hey, Bill, so listen, I know you're jammed for time. You guys are getting ready to take off, but walk us through, put us in the audience yesterday there with Secretary Pompeo. What was the reaction to the speech? I want to know, you've been doing this for 30 years. I'd like to hear your perspective of this kind of this amazing speech at the Nixon Library yesterday.
Yeah, Steve, this was, I've been covering this issue for over 30 years, and this was the most important, significant speech by a senior U.S. leader since Nixon went to China back in the 70s. Very appropriate that they had this speech right up to the line calling for regime change in Beijing, but basically saying, look, we've got to change the Communist Party of China. Otherwise, there cannot be normal relations between the United States and the free world. He laid down a marker like I hadn't seen in decades, and I think it's extremely significant that we're moving forward with really putting ultimate pressure on what the military calls the center of gravity for the Cold War with China, which is the Communist Party of China.
Bill, you say, I want to go back to that term, regime change. What I found most powerful about this is that he was talking to of all the audiences, his primary audience to me seemed like not policymakers in Washington, not the guys on Wall Street, not their cheerleaders and their lobbyists and the people who have kept them in power, their business partners, and not even the American people. The American people were a significant audience. The most important audience he was talking to was the Chinese people. He essentially told the Chinese people, hey, we're here as your partners. Things have got to change, and the only way real change is going to come about is not just this alliance of democracy, but it's in the Chinese people's hands to actually make the changes that he talked about. It was really, he didn't, which I thought was brilliant. He didn't call for regime change like the U.S. government would not call for that. He called for the Chinese people to have regime change, and the rest of the world would be there for him. Is that your take?
Yeah, I think that's key. I think the strategy, he basically laid out the strategy, which is following on the Soviet model of perestroika and glasnost. Get some transparency, get some real information, get the Chinese people speaking, and they'll get rid of the Communist Party, which is universally hated within China. And I think he ended his speech by saying, God bless America, God bless the Chinese people. So he was clearly speaking abroad. Another key point factor he talked about there was he said the current Chinese leadership does not speak with one voice. That was a clear recognition that there are fissures within the ruling Communist Party of China. And he was saying our new strategy is, look, we're going to reach out to the Chinese people. We're going to demand transparency. We're going to get information there. We're going to get reciprocity. So I think it's a very good strategy. Let's hope that they follow through with it with some real action. I think the closing of this consulate in Houston was important. Like you said, where's Mnuchin? Let's get the Treasury Secretary on board with this new strategy.
Look, I want to go back to that before we lose you, but he talked about at the beginning, he set it up about this was the fourth of the speeches that he had worked with O'Brien and Ray and Barr to go through the different aspects of it. He actually said Barr's was the economic speech. Where's the hammer we have? The biggest hammer we have is our capital markets, our ability to finance the U.S. dollar, everything that comes from the financial superpower that we are. Where is the Secretary of Treasury bill, and what do you think Mnuchin has to do now when we've got a clearly laid out coherent strategy about taking these guys on? Do you think this is going to a forcing function? The speech is a forcing function to force Mnuchin to start to step up here and take the actions that the Treasury Department clearly has to take and has to break off from their Wall Street cronies?
Well, the word I hear from inside the administration is that Mnuchin has been slow rolling a lot of the major financial actions that have been taken. That said, the Trump administration has done some amazing things. Sanctioning foreign Chinese officials for human rights violations. I think they need to do it in a much more comprehensive way, and again, that's going to require getting Mnuchin more on board. The way it shakes down is that the debate is still underway within certain factions of the Trump administration that, like Mnuchin, who would prefer to see go back to the old unfettered engagement, economic engagement with China, and hope that that is going to change it. I think Pompeo was absolutely clear yesterday. Engagement has failed. It was based on a false hope that this idea of trading and conciliatory policies was going to change the system over there, and it's time for the new approach. And I think, as you said, we got to get the Treasury Department on board. I think Wilbur Ross has been successful at commerce. He's very strong on China. But again, Treasury has a lot more hammers that it can use against the CCP.
I thought Hugh Hewitt did particularly a good job on the Q&A. I know Hugh's the president of the Nixon Library. It was I thought, a very bold move to invite Pompeo out to give the speech in the kind of the 50th year anniversary of Kissinger's secret trip, and in 2 years will be the 50th anniversary of President Nixon's historic trip. What was it like being there at the Nixon Library when you really have a speech by Secretary of State that is a kind of counter, because Nixon opened up China. Now, he brought the points about change, that China has to change. He had that magnificent quote of President Nixon's about, we may have created a Frankenstein. But what was the sense of the audience out there who I knew are some of the biggest donors and biggest supporters of the legacy of Richard Nixon?
It was very, 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 very supportive. On several occasions, there were universal applause from the audience, and there were probably about 150, 200 people there. Again, everybody was spread out, but I thought that it was well received. Again, it was very poignant that at the beginning of the engagement policy was Nixon, And now Pompeo is announcing the end of engagement at the same location.
这个演讲的重大意义在哪里？大家要看到，彻底结束了基辛格对共产党让共产党强大，中国具有法治、民主、自由，中国人不配拥有民主，中国人太低教育，要让共产党强大，再给共产党几十年，这再给几十年已经说了70年、100年了，哎 ，don't care, no problem. So， 哎呀，我要讲英文去了。So， 你看我这脑子现在转英文去了。你看这装神弄鬼呀，这郭文贵呀，他不让刚才船长不让人家传过来，你凭啥不让人家传过来啊？这都不好。那么，亲爱的兄弟姐妹们，不但如此，庞培奥还发表了第二个观点，要和中国人一起，要更换。督促和中国人在一起，要让中国共产党的这个 regime 这个词儿是不是一个正面的？严格讲就是个流氓机构、坏的机构或者黑社会，把它彻底给推翻。这是美国官方有史以来正式的第一次，美国官方官员提出要把共产党定义为一个流氓机构。流氓机构能合法吗？流氓机构当然不合法，那怎么办？和中国人一起把它推翻。第三个非常重要的，他把中国人和中国共产党彻底分开。中国人跟中国共产党完全不一样，中国人是一个最大的受害者。不但中国人是最大的受害者，而且还很关键地提出来，最后的最感动人的是上天保佑中国，上天保佑美国人。
全球大约1570万人被诊断出感染 CCP 病毒，63万8000多人死亡。韩国冠状病毒感染创3月份以来新高。新加坡总理李显龙宣布因病毒大流行而推迟退休。越南报告3个月来首例本地感染病例。美国移民局和海关执法局周五宣布，如果学校仅提供线上课程，将不允许新入学的国际学生进入美国。美国麦当劳餐厅要求所有客人佩戴口罩。美国富国银行正在削减成本、裁员并加强贷款业务，以度过病毒流行带来的危机。新加坡籍男子对在美国从事的中国间谍活动认罪。马来西亚表示，尽管 CCP 病毒大流行，亚太经合组织国家领导人峰会仍可能于11月如期在吉隆坡举行。